So today's problem is a 2016 Hyundai Elantra GT with a 2-liter GDI direct injected engine, and it randomly stalls at an idle when coming to a stop, and it apparently does it when it's hot. Chugs a little bit sometimes and then quits, and then it has a difficult time starting. Have to wait half an hour, 45 minutes for it to start. It's been looked at a couple different places. A couple things have been tried, nothing concrete. Apparently never sets a code. It's had the fuel pump replaced in the tank and the high pressure fuel pump replaced a couple of times. So we're going to have a look at a network scan to begin with, and possibly look at some cam and crank signals, and obviously drive it, and hopefully it stalls on us and we're able to capture some data when it does stall. So we've ID'd this vehicle, and we're going to do a network code scan and see what comes up. Why does it want the key on, engine off? Well, okay, so we got the ignition on, engine not running. Click continue. Most vehicles you can do a network scan with the vehicle running. Low battery voltage in the airbag module. And that looks like it's about it. Really. Engine, transmission, anti-lock brakes, and airbag. I got a funny feeling there's more than 4. Oh, it's still going. Sorry. I saw this green bar here and I thought it had finished. Now we're into the body control module. Instrument cluster. Electronic power steering. Computers, 10 computers, 11 computers, 12. Well, the only code is for low voltage and a turn signal front problem. Low voltage from the weight classification system as well. Now, it is winter time here, it is extremely cold, or has been very cold, so low voltage codes are pretty common. I'm not going to assume that has anything to do with the problem. It's probably just a weak battery or extreme cold weather that we've had. I'm not going to clear those yet. I'm going to look in the engine control just for the hell of it. Go into engine and read codes again. So there are no codes listed. Okay, so there's nothing that's going to help us. I've already checked for case histories and TSVs and haven't been able to find anything concrete with regards to this stall condition. So we're going to have a look at some places to tap in and look at the cam and crank signals while we road test it. So we're going to have a look at guided component tests and see what's in here. Fuel injection system. They have cam crank relationship signature test. Well, that's kind of nice. So it looks like the crank sensor is a magnetic pulse generator, and the cam sensor, and there's 2 cam sensors, is a Hall effect. See the signals, digital on the Hall effect and analog on the magnetic pulse generator. Let's see what it says about the cam sensor. Component information, Hall effect sensor. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to see if I can test them right at the ECM, because the ECM is very accessible. Let's see if we got ECM pinouts. This is an automatic transmission. I was looking at the schematic already, and it's pin 47 and 66, and I think 79, but it's on the smaller connector. It's on this connector here. 47, 66, and 79. So we're going to set up a 4-channel lab scope to look at these signals while we record data at the same time. So I've got the 4-channel lab scope hooked up. Channel 1 is on the crank sensor at the ECM, pin 78. Channel 2 and 3 are on the cam sensors. Docking them at the cam sensors because they're fairly convenient to get to. And then channel 4 is on number 2 ignition coil primary. So there's a waveform there. I'm going to set this up with a USB cable going into the car so I can leave all of this wiring under the hood. And we can go for a road test. So as luck would have it, I disconnect the USB cable to dock this thing and it starts to stumble and stall. So I've got it plugged in now and I'm going to try to start it now and see if we got cam and crank signals. Well, we definitely got ignition. It's running and stumbling like crazy. It just stalled. But it's not a crank sensor or a cam sensor. I think we better look at fuel system on this thing. Okay, I'm going to pause this recording and put the scanner on it. Okay, so I've got rail pressure and fuel rail sensor voltage here. Let's see what it looks like. Set point went up to 340, but we got no fuel pressure. Well, it's definitely a fuel problem. That would explain why it's not setting a code. It's commanding 699 psi and it's not making any pressure if that's a live data parameter. Interesting. So I'm using the scan tool to command the fuel pump on, the one in the tank, and got a adapter teed in, and this is what I get. According to all data, it was 70 to 80 psi it's supposed to be. I've got it teed into the supply line at the high pressure fuel pump. Well, the high pressure fuel pump can't make high pressure fuel if it hasn't got low pressure fuel. So we're going to try and run this pump by bypassing the relay just to make sure if it's even got a relay. Well, I tried starting it again. It's had a chance to cool off a little bit and it started, but I've only got just shy, slightly over 20 psi supply pressure to that high pressure pump. So we're going to let it run again and see if it stumbles and stalls and what happens to this supply pressure. I believe it's supposed to be about 70 or 80 psi. There was no fuel pump relay inside the relay center, at least not that I could see. So we're going to let this run for a while. Well, it's making high pressure fuel now. Set point is 580 and it's running around 580, but it hasn't started to stumble yet. We're going to let it run for a little longer and see what happens. Let's see what the fuel pressure has. Just slightly less than 20 psi. I'm going to double check, see if I can find that spec in the Hyundai service information. This is what I found in all data. It says low pressure line is 70 to 73 and high pressure anywhere from 290 to 2175. See if I can find it in Hyundai's information. Well, it dropped down to about 18 psi and as you saw, it started to stumble and stalled. So I'm having difficulty finding actual published specifications for the fuel supply pressure, but 20 pounds seems awful low. The weird thing is it drops to about 19 and then it, stupid pop-ups. It drops to about 19 and then it starts to stumble and stall, and then the fuel pressure drops right off. It doesn't hold fuel pressure either, which could be a sign of a problem. The set point is 580 on the high side, but you can see the high side fuel pressure, the actual absolute pressure, drops off before it actually stalls. And then when you start cranking again, this is a recording I took. Maybe that's the end of it. Stalled a couple of times now, idling in the shop here. Good thing is I didn't have to go for a road test and get stranded. There's me cranking it again. You can see that its set point is a lot higher than the actual, but as soon as it comes up, it starts to run again. Damn, I gotta find the actual supply pressure. I'm looking for an actual test for the fuel pump, and I come across this. This is right from Hyundai. Check fuel pump relay. Connect GDS to data link, key on, perform actuation test for the fuel pump relay. Does the fuel pump relay work normally? Click. If it's yes, replace the ECU and check for proper operation. If the ECU fixes it, go to verification of vehicle repair. If no, substitute a known good EMS box. We just happen to have an ECU and an EMS box. All I want is the fuel pressure, guys. Man, why do you make it so difficult? Well, finally found it. Fuel pressure. Low pressure fuel system. 71 to 73 psi. Exactly what all data said. High pressure 290 to 2175.6. So definitely a problem with the low pressure fuel pump. Either the pressure regulator or the fuel pump itself. I'm going to pull the back seat and make sure I get good power and ground to the fuel pump. That pump's supposed to have been replaced. Well, at least the pump's easy enough to get to. It's access under the back seat. Tip the right side back seat cushion forward and then pull the cover up off the floor. And we're going to test power and ground at this pump. Pressure regulation is done internally. It's a single line system from what I can see. So it's got a mechanical pressure regulator in the pump, which could be defective. But we're going to check to see if we have power here. I'm sure this pink wire is the power supply wire, and the black wire would be the ground, but I'll double check this wiring diagram. So it is the pink and black wire. It's running now, and it's actually starting to stumble, and it's sitting at 14.19 volts to the pump, so there's a problem with this pump. It's about to quit any second. So the customer informed me that it was just the pump that was replaced, not the entire assembly. So I removed it from the tank, and I figured it's supposed to hold residual pressure, and as we've seen before, it wasn't. So I put a cooling system pressure tester, and watch what happens when I pressurize it. You can see it's leaking right out of the top of the pump. So either the pump itself has failed or the connections on top. I'm going to have to take that apart and have a look in there. So I've got that pump apart, and I actually took the pump out of the housing, and this O-ring, as you can see, is distorted. It was not installed correctly in the housing down inside there. And that's the top of the pump where the fuel was leaking out. That's the outlet. So let's see if I've got another O-ring like this, and we'll put it back together. So to replace those O-rings in there, I actually put a double O-ring in there because there's more than enough room. I used fuel injector O-rings, which appeared to be the same size. And this pressure tester goes up to like 20 psi. And you can see that it's holding pressure now, so I suspect that that was the problem. We'll put it back in and recheck fuel pressure. Well, that looks a little better. And it should hold fuel pressure according to although my pressure gauge is leaking a little bit here, so it might seep down a little bit because of that. I'm going to shut it off and see how quickly it drops fuel pressure. That's holding pretty steady. So I would imagine this thing's going to run better now.